When we think of Palestine and Israel, we often immediately think of the international conflicts that have persisted for decades. Everything stems from conflicts from religion, politics, and territory. So today, let's learn more about the causes of the conflicts between these two countries. Jerusalem is a city in the Middle East and is also one of the oldest cities in the world. Throughout its history, Jerusalem has witnessed many bloody conflicts to compete for it. To understand the origin history of these disputes, we need to go back in time to understand this religious complexity of this land. Around 1000 BC, King David brought the people of Israel to a place now called Jerusalem to build a capital and establish the nation of Israel. 40 years later, King David's son, King Solomon, built a temple in Jerusalem, considered the greatest wonder of his time. It was called the First Temple, which was the holiest place and pilgrimage center for Jews, Israelis at that time. In 586 BC, the Babylonian army destroyed Israel and the First Temple. About 70 years later, the Babylonian army was destroyed by the Persian Empire, and the Israelites were allowed to return to Jerusalem. They rebuilt the Second Temple on the foundation of the First Temple. The Israelites were then ruled by the Persian, Greek, and Roman empires. AD 30. Jesus was preaching in Jerusalem, but his teachings were against the yoke of the Roman Empire, so he was condemned. He was crucified on the cross at Resurrection Church, located in the old city of Jerusalem. This is the holiest Christian church in the world. 40 years later, the Romans destroyed Jerusalem and the Second Temple, leaving only the Western Wall, now known as the Wailing Wall. Later, the Romans built a Roman temple on the foundation of the Second Temple and renamed the Jewish province to Palestine. For the next 400 years, Israelis were barred from entering Jerusalem. In the 6th century, the Arab Muslim Empire occupied Palestine. They built two mosques in Jerusalem. One of the two mosques was built on the foundation of the Second Temple. Both of those temples still exist today. It is the religious issue that makes this land always sensitive when it has all the sacred relics of the three major religions: Christian, Judaism, and Islamic. For Christians, Jerusalem is the place where Jesus died, and there are many ancient relics saved here. Muslims think of Jerusalem as the place where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven, while Jews think of Jerusalem as the place where the identity of the entire Jewish nation resides, where the sacred temple of King Solomon. After World War I, after defeating the Ottoman Empire, Britain took control of the most of Middle East, including the land that later became the present state of Israel. Also on this land, the Kingdom of Israel existed 3,000 years ago. In 1936, Arab rebels attacked the British and Israelis living in the area. The British created a Appeal Council to investigate the cause of the riots. The investigation concluded that the cause was because of both Arabs and Jews wanted to rule the same piece of land. To solve this problem, the council said this is necessary to build two independent states, one of the Jews and the other of the Arabs. From the beginning, the division of the land was extremely biased towards the Arabs. The British gave 80% of the land to the Arabs, the remaining 20% of the land to the Jews. After 2000 of wandering, the Jews agreed. But the Arabs rejected this proposal and continued to kill and violence against the Jewish people. 10 years later, in 1947, Britain suggested the United Nations found a new solution to the conflicts between these two groups of people. The United Nations decided to divide the land for two peoples to build into two independent countries again. And like last time, the Jews agreed and the Arabs rejected again. Thus, Jerusalem continued to be divided until Israel completely took Jerusalem after the Six-Day War, 1967. After this war, Israel claimed Jerusalem as its capital. However, this has not been recognized by the international community, and there have been no foreign embassies in Jerusalem. In 1996, after the first parliamentary elections, the president of the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, Yasser Arafat, claimed Jerusalem is the capital of the emerging Palestinian state. In 2000, Israel's Prime Minister Ehud Barak met President Arafat at Camp David, a U.S. military base in Maryland, to negotiate a new two-state plan. Ehud Barak suggested that Palestinians build their own state in the entire Gaza Strip and 94% of the West Bank with East Jerusalem as the capital. President Arafat refused. Not only that, Palestine also organized suicide bombings targeting buses, restaurants, weddings, causing more than 1,000 Israelis casualties. This is the fourth time the Arabs refused peace. In 2008, Israel's Prime Minister added a piece of land into the hope that Palestine would agree and live peacefully with Israel, but they refused. This is the fifth time the Palestinians have refused. In between the two proposals, Israel automatically withdrew its troops from the Gaza Strip, leaving the Palestinians free to control this place. But instead of building a city for people to live in, Palestine developed this place into a terrorist base called Hamas, and it became a launching pad to fire thousands of missiles at Israel. In addition, the peace process fell into a deadlock because since the United Nations resolution was to divide the Palestinian land into two independent states, Israel has begun building settlements for repatriated Jews in the area disputed with Palestine. To date, Israel has built thousands of Jewish settlements in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. Analysts say Israel's settlement activity is a major obstacle to peace in the Middle East. This action caused a huge outcry from the Palestinians, sparked protests and Palestinian attacks on Israelis for decades. Since 2009, the administration of U.S. President Barack Obama has repeatedly pressured the Israeli government to stop building settlements in the West Bank and restore the peace process with Palestine. However, the Israeli government continues to allow the sale of houses built in settlements in East Jerusalem. At the same time, the Israeli government continues to approve a plan to build more settlements in the territories disputed with Palestine. These actions make the Israeli-Palestinian negotiation process always at an impasse. In addition, on May 14, 2018, the U.S. government of former President Donald Trump moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to the Holy Land of Jerusalem, implicitly admitting that this is the permanent capital of the Jewish state. This has continued to make the Middle East fire pan explode again. This action of former President Trump at that time was compared as a blow to the Muslim world and Arab countries, causing a series of angry reactions from U.S. allies. With this decision, former President Trump not only broke decades of U.S. policy in the Middle East, but also was set to put an end to efforts to achieve peace between Israel and Palestine. Current and past conflicts between Israel and Palestine have flared up again in recent weeks. In fact, tensions in East Jerusalem flared up in April 2021 when Israeli police prevented Palestinians from entering Jerusalem, including the Al-Aqsa Mosque, during the Muslim month of Ramadan. Palestinians protested against it. Palestinians consider this act to restrict freedom of assembly, while the Israeli police consider it as a measure to maintain security. In addition, they are also angry that the Israeli authorities expelled some Palestinians from their homes to make way for Israeli settlers. And the Jerusalem Regional Court ruled in favor of Jewish settlers who claimed the property in Sheikh Jarrah that is home to many Palestinian families. Recently, Israeli riot police violently cracked down on hundreds of Palestinians at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, leaving hundreds injured. Clashes flared up after some Palestinian extremists threw rocks and fireworks at Israeli police, and they responded with rubber bullets and grenades. Over the past few days, both Israel and the Islamic Hamas movement in the Gaza Strip have fired hundreds of rockets towards each other's territory. The conflict between Israel and Palestinian militants in the Gaza Strip is escalating, raising fears of all-out war. It can be seen that the increased conflict is the result of years of tension between Israel and Palestine and the smoldering disputes. The peace process between Israel and Palestine has become increasingly obscure. Thank you for watching the video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.